All right, so we're going to go back since I have a lot of students in the audience. Let's go back to beginning. You worked on a lot of short films. What was that process for you, helping you kind of find your voice?
Boy, wow, short films. I think when you're starting out, right? You're trying to find potential collaborators who are going to who are going to bring you up with them as they move along in their careers. I think it's a safe space to sort of experiment, to find your voice, but it's also just a great place to meet people and to try to impress them with your work and what you can do. So I think with a short film, just do the best work you can do. Don't treat it like, oh, it's just a short film. Treat it like it's a real project, because it's a real project. And those relationships, the Silent Planet, which I talked about in the panel, Jeff St. Jules, his Canadian Film Centre thesis film was the second real short film that I had done, and we've been working together now for almost 20 years. So.
And also, it would sound like to me you get to explore different genres, because you might not think you would like a certain genre if you didn't experiment.
Absolutely, and I think that especially short films notoriously have no money, right? As we all know, and I think it's just at that stage in your career, money can't be the deciding factor in terms of whether you're going to do a job or not. The big credibility that you'll have going into the industry is your credits. Hence the name, credibility. And the more credits you bring to it to get to the next drawing, your first paid gig, your first feature film, your first television show, your first whatever, all of that gets linked back to your credits, right? So you want to amass as many of those as you can and develop those relationships.
All right, so then now you got a working gig, Human Odyssey. So what was the challenges in working on that?
So Great Human Odyssey was a while ago. That was, gosh, almost 7 or 8 years ago. But how I managed to get that gig is that I worked with another director, a director team on a project, and they had found me kind of Googling me. And one of the director's production partners was kind of walking by the editing suite, and he's like, oh, wow. Where's that music from? And that's sort of how Niobe found me. And what's interesting about, so the 3-part miniseries, and one of the things that I'll say is that it's one of those rare documentaries that had a really amazing music budget. We recorded with a full orchestra, we recorded with choir, all union, all on board, everything like that. And it was really sort of, for a composer, it's as good as it gets, right? Like it's really as good as it gets. And what's interesting is that when you're working with someone new, it takes some time to develop that relationship, right? So we had 3 episodes that we need to get through in about 8.5 weeks. It took us 4 weeks to get through episode 1 and 3.5 to get through episodes 2 and 3, right? And that's just because you're developing that relationship. You're kind of understanding, okay, when he says this, he means that. This is what he means by all of these sort of notes here and there. And I think that once you have that trust, things go by a lot faster. Our second miniseries that we worked on, Equus Story of the Horse, Niobe and I, the process was, I don't want to say that the process is acrimonious. The first miniseries, we were just figuring each other out, but without that sort of pretense of ego or trying to figure stuff out, we were just able to get to that finish point a lot easier and a lot faster.
All right, so as a hockey fan, I'm a New York Rangers fan. I grew up in New York. What was it like reimagining the theme for SCTV of hockey?
So that gig was one of the very first gigs that I did. I was like 27, 26 at the time, right? And they sort of go like, if you can imagine, so this hockey theme is sort of, it's, for Canadians, like they call it Canada's second national anthem, right? And originally the gig for me was to redo the theme for NHL and TSN, which would have been an amazing gig in itself. But then all of a sudden, it's just like, oh wow, this opportunity they had, TSN had to pick up this theme song from CBC. They did it, and then just all of a sudden the gravitas of the situation just got exploded by about $1 billion, right? And I was trying to explain to my agent, I was living in Montreal at the time, and my agent was in LA. I was just trying to explain to her how culturally significant this gig was, and she just didn't quite get it, right? It was incredible because that you're working with basically essentially the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, right? And you've got this huge budget that you're trying to manage, and like I said, like I was 27, like fake it till you make it sort of thing. We had an amazing team. I have to say, the good people at CTV, Mike Noonan and his audio production team really supported me well with this. We had fantastic players, and it was just to be that storied part of Canadiana was just amazing, right?
And blending your two passions.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.